Hey, Team BCN, thanks so much for listening to today's podcast episode. Kristin Jones, a licensed clinical social worker out of the Cynthian office, joins us today to tell us a little bit about her story. Kristin, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, Kristin, how long have you worked at Bluegrass Care Navigators?
So I've been with them this past September 5 years, and as an employee, and it has flown by.
Wow, that's a really long time, and that's really awesome that you've reached that milestone. So, congratulations.
Thank
One of
you.
the words that was mentioned to me in my early days, and I'm still in my early days to be honest, but one of the words that was mentioned to me here is that people had to be called to spend their life in healthcare, especially hospice. When did you first know that you wanted to be a social worker?
Well, I definitely struggled like most early adults in what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I knew I wanted to be in the helping profession. When I was looking into enrolling into a program, social work caught my attention. Just because there's so many different fields of social work, I feel at times it can be misunderstood to society. But social workers advocate for change, improvement, and social justice. It was definitely something I wanted to be a part of. Um, as I was in this period of my life, my grandpa actually was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer in 2013, and he was enrolled in BCN. I knew then that hospice social work was kind of the career choice for me.
Okay. What was it? This is not one of the questions that I sent you, but what was it about his and your experience that was kind of the catalyst for you to become a social worker?
I was just able to see the care provided to the patients and families from the family's perspective. I just remember the ease that they gave us just with their presence, their education, their guidance. I do try to remember that in my day to day, in the care I provide to my families and patients.
Kind of a way to, since you've been through that experience, you can empathize a little bit more and give what you receive to other people then.
Exactly.
Yeah. So because of your grandfather, you became a social worker mainly because of your grandfather's experience with hospice. How do you feel like what you're doing now is an extension of his legacy, even as you're creating your own?
Well, just like I said too, I think having that perspective of the families side of it, and trying to remember that in my day to day, just wanting to treat my patients and families like they are my grandfather, my mother, my sister, and how I would want their care to be. I think that definitely reflects on the job and how I provide that care.
hmm You talked about this a little bit when we started this conversation, but how do you describe your role as a social worker? Or maybe a better way to ask it is, what do you see as your mission as a social worker?
I think just meeting the families, helping them complete their goals. If I'm able to take any to decrease any burden off of them or help guide them through this to make it an easier process. I mean, that's my mission. That's my goal here, is just to kind of make this vulnerable time a little bit easier on them.
hmm So you have told me, I think, when we weren't recording, that BCN is because of your grandfather's experience, it was the catalyst for you to not only become a social worker, but then also you knew where you wanted to work. Can you describe your journey from like knowing that this was what you wanted to do to get to where you are now?
So I was actually working on my master's degree at UK, and with the MSW program, you have to complete a 400-hour practicum, like supervision, basically.
Mhm.
And knowing the path I wanted to be on, I did reach out to BCN. It was Hospice of the Bluegrass back then for the student role. I did complete my hours with them. And after I graduated, I was hired on as a PRN social worker at the Lexington office, which is now the headquarters. That was the only position available at the time, and I knew I wanted to be with them, so I took whatever they had to offer. I then went on to do the agency-wide flex position, where I would travel to all of our offices to help the social workers as they needed me, whether they were off or just had a higher caseload. And now I'm in Georgetown with my own caseload. So
That's awesome. How large is your caseload?
right now, I actually just have like 38. but that fluctuates.
Mhm.
It
Yes,
can
for
be as high as 60, as low as 30. So it just
okay.
depends on the
Yeah,
need.
yeah. Why you've talked about this a lot, but I haven't asked you directly. Why Bluegrass Care Navigators? What is your why for why you do what you do?
I just think BCN's their own entity. Like I mentioned before, social work can be at times misunderstood or underappreciated. I've never felt that way with BCN. They just make the social workers feel like an important part of the team.
Mhm,
Um, they just feel like family to me. It's helped me grow into the person I am today. It's given me multiple opportunities to expand my education, my knowledge. They've helped me gain my license, clinical social work certification. They've given me CEs to help me better my knowledge in hospice and social work. I've actually been able to get my APHSW certification, which is Advanced Palliative Hospice Social Work certification, while working with them. So they've made a lot of things possible for me and helped me grow. And
mhm. Plus giving you what sounds like to you is a really rewarding career, is that right?
absolutely, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I did my ride along with you as part of the onboarding process. And so I know that I just saw a snapshot of your day and that no day is the same. Um,
Exactly.
but could you describe what a day in your life looks like? You know, how many patients you see, what you do?
So on a normal day, we will say on an average day, but you're right, it's always different. I joke often, and you probably heard me say this, you never know what the day will bring.
Mhm.
But that's very true. On an average day, I will try to see 3 to 4 patients, just depending on their needs. And I do make sure in that day that they're in that visit that their needs and goals are being met. Just support that family and whatever that looks like for them. And then obviously collaborate with my team throughout the day on any updates or things they may need assistance with.
Yeah. Why hospice? I mean, you might get asked this a lot, but why because I think when people hear the word hospice, they always think of, sadness, and
Hmm.
it is partly sad, but why hospice as a career field for you?
I just can't think of a more vulnerable time to come into someone's life. Just to be a part of that, even if it's for just a day, is something I'm grateful for. I always thank my families for allowing us to come into their homes and help out. It's a rewarding feeling if I can decrease their worry or burdens in any way. And that's impactful to me. I always heard if you do what you love, you don't work a day in your life. And I feel that with BCN. I'm just very thankful.
Yeah, yeah. Dealing with this again was not one of the questions that I sent you, but it's more like a conversation, right? So this
Yeah.
just came to mind as we're talking about hospice. As you as you help carry another's burdens, you're giving them a gift. But how do you maintain that kind of mental emotional balance so that these burdens that you're carrying for somebody else don't get the better of you too?
I think in this profession, you have to be very self aware of your feelings and know what your limits are and know what makes you happy and brings you joy at the end of the day. I describe it a lot as putting air into a balloon, only so much air or negative energy and you pop. Um, so I think, knowing how to release some of that air or that negative energy in a positive way makes the job less stressful, makes that work life balance a little easier to maintain.
Mhm. For sure. So we all have difficult days, no matter what job or career field we're in. Can you tell me a story that keeps you going when it would just be easier to throw in the towel that day?
Yeah, in hospice, we do have those heavy days,
Yeah.
especially in those cases that hit closer to home.
Mhm.
I'm 31. I've had a 37-year-old, and from the beginning, I knew she was special. She just had a lot about her. She was so positive despite her prognosis and being so young. We worked as a team to complete her bucket list. She wanted to have a massage, so we worked with integrative medicine and helped her get that completed. She wanted to ride in her dad's convertible. Um, and they made that happen for her. And she wanted to marry her high school sweetheart. So, with the help of her family, friends, and BCN, that happened for her. That's what makes this job all more special. It's just kind of days like that, you feel like you're doing something, you're being impactful, and they make the hard days less hard.
Mhm.
Her story is still out there, actually.
It is.
Marketing with the marketing team, being able to tell that story, it won a national award. So, um, her
Yeah.
legacy is going on and carrying on because of us, and that's
Yes.
amazing to me.
And I think you were the one who said it, that hospice is not the end. You still have a chance to make memories with your family and the people that you love too.
Exactly. Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. As you reflect on the work that you and your coworkers do, and we're recording this before Thanksgiving and it'll release the week after Thanksgiving, but we're still in a season that we're focusing on gratitude.
Mhm.
As you reflect on the work that you do, what are you especially proud of and grateful for?
So I just feel like I have the best teammates. I'm not, like you said at the beginning, I feel like you're called for this. I've not met a BCN employee that doesn't appear to have been called for this profession. My team and I, if we're able, just a story, just to kind of reflect on that. My team and I, if we're able to try to attend patients' funeral visitation, we do that.
Mhm.
We don't always get that opportunity, but we do try to. So a couple of weeks ago, my team chaplain, Esther, and I went to one of our longtime patients' visitations. We signed in, we waited in line to pay our respects like everyone else. As we were waiting, we were looking at the flowers and photos. When it was our time to talk with the family, just the smile and tears on the wife's face. Oh my gosh, it just assured me that we did a great job. She was so thankful for the care we provided and that we showed up to that visitation. That's just something I'll always be proud of, is hearing the impact we have on patients and families. And
Yeah.
you could just tell, like, she was so, so thankful. It's a
Yes,
feeling
for
you just
sure.
can't describe or get anywhere else
Yes,
in a
for
job.
sure. Yes, because we can't stop the inevitable, but we can help make people's final days as good as possible and support the
Exactly.
family afterwards.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So shifting gears, probably a hard right turn. What do you like to do for fun when you're not working at BCN?
So I'm a mom of a soon to be 2-year old.
Oh, wow.
So, yes. So being with her is what brings me joy at the end of the day. Don't get a whole lot of time for fun, but when she goes to sleep, you'll catch me binge watching some TV shows or reading a book or
Mhm.
just spending time with my husband and my animals.
Yes. How many animals do you have?
I have a dog and a cat.
What are their names?
George is my beagle. He was my
Oh.
firstborn son. He's 11. He's spoiled. And then I have Willow, a cat, and he's 3. So,
Aw, that's really sweet. That is really sweet. So, Kristen, we have one question that we ask everyone who comes on the podcast. But before I do that, is there anything else you'd like to mention that I didn't know to ask you?
like you mentioned, death, dying, hospice, they're all like taboo words. But in my heart, I just feel like death can be just as beautiful as birth. I've seen
Mm,
as BCN social worker that education and guidance through that dying process does decrease that sense of worry in the final days, even when I was in that position with my grandpa. And also, like you said, hospice just isn't for those final days. When we get referrals earlier, patients and families are able to utilize our services to that full potential. We're able to meet more goals and better prepare, and just kind of form that rapport with them,
mhm.
get to know them a
Absolutely.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So, my last question, because this podcast is in part at least about getting to know our team members, what is one thing that others may not know about you?
And they may know this about me, but I'm an old soul. Like I'm a granny. I love thrifting, antiquing, I like classic rock music, listening to vinyls. My husband jokes and says I'm a granny all the time because
I love it. I love it because I think I'm also a little bit of an old soul too. So I really appreciate to meet
that's why
somebody
we
else.
get along.
Yes, yes, for sure. Well, Kristen, this has been a really delightful conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time to share a little bit about yourself and what you do and why you enjoy doing that.
Thank you for having me and letting me share my story.
Absolutely. Absolutely.